I knocked on the door as usual. Liangchen, time for your medicine. My voice was gentle as I entered the bedroom, carrying the pills and a glass of warm water. A man sat upright on the bed. He was handsome, with a high-bridged nose, thin lips, and deep-set eyes. His own eyes, however, were unfocused, vacant and blank. Why are you home so late? Zhou Liangchen's words were a complaint, but his voice was incredibly tender and doting, a faint, elegant smile playing on his lips. I'm so sorry. Something urgent came up at the office, I said, mimicking Su Mushua's playful tone as I put the glass and the pills into his hand. Zhou Liangchen is my fiancé, but right now, I'm playing the part of his childhood sweetheart, Su Moshue. 2 years ago, Zhou Liangchen was in a car accident that left him blind and with badly injured legs. The doctors said his prognosis was uncertain and that he might be permanently blind. His fiancée, Su Moshue, afraid he would be disabled forever, used furthering her studies as an excuse to go abroad for 2 years. But after the accident, Zhou Liangchen was in a fragile mental state. He was terrified his fiancée would leave him and simply couldn't be without her. Left with no other choice, the Zhou family decided to hire a stand-in to pose as Su Moshue. And I was the perfect candidate. My mother is a maid for the Su family, so I grew up with Su Moshue. I know everything about her, and I can even imitate her voice. More importantly, my mother had fallen seriously ill and needed money for expensive medical bills. So I volunteered for the part, hoping the Zhou family would ensure my mother received the best treatment possible. Zhou Liangchen wrapped his arms around my waist, preventing me from leaving. He pulled me into his lap, burying his head in my neck, inhaling my scent. Wifey, your hair smells so good. His warm breath on my neck sent shivers down my spine. My face flushed slightly, and I tried to get up. Dinner's almost ready, I'll go eat first, then bring you some. He held me tighter, not letting me go. Wifey, no rush. He began to nuzzle and kiss my neck. My ears burned, and I tried to pull away his large hand from my waist. He chuckled softly in my ear, and with one hand, he subdued me, pressing me against the wall. Zhou Liangchen leaned his ear against my stomach. Wifey, I'm trying so hard, why is there still no news? My face reddened. He indeed tried very hard, but I always managed to make his efforts in vain. This depends on fate, you can't rush it. I always blush and my heart races when I lie, but luckily he couldn't see it. Zhou Liangchen laughed, leaning into my ear. I don't believe it. Man can conquer nature, I need to try harder. With that, he started to tease my ear again. My whole face was burning, and I pushed against his chest. If I don't go eat, your mom will scold me. He paused, chuckling in my ear. All right, wait until tonight. He smiled as he got off me, and I quickly got up to straighten my clothes. Leaning outside the bedroom door, I took deep breaths, trying to cool down my flushed face. I composed myself, calming my racing heart. Calm down, calm down. He loves Su Moshue. His girlfriend is Su Moshue, the eldest daughter of the Su family, his childhood sweetheart, Su Moshue. I absolutely cannot overthink this. When I got downstairs, Zhou Liangchen's mother, He Anjuan, was waiting for me at the dining table. She had already started eating, and I was only just arriving. He Anjuan frowned. What took you so long? I was just helping Mr. Zhou with his medicine, I said, my expression deferential as I sat down. Her features immediately softened into a smile. I have good news for you. Su Moshue is finishing her studies abroad and coming back. Plus, the doctor says Achen's eyes are almost better, and his legs are nearly healed too. You'll have fulfilled your purpose soon, and you can take your money and go abroad. I forced a smile. That's wonderful. Congratulations on Mr. Zhou's recovery. You must be so relieved, Mrs. He. He Anjuan caught sight of the mark on my neck, and her face soured. Yianin, don't you dare covet what isn't yours. If you let anything slip or let Achen find out the truth in this last month, our Zhou family and the Su family will not let you off the hook. And you can forget about getting the money for your mother's medical bills. Her gaze held a naked contempt. I quickly pulled my collar up to cover the mark, then lowered my head and ate obediently. He Anjuan despised me. Even though I had helped her by getting Zhou Liangchen through that difficult time, in her mind, I was just a servant's daughter, a poor, inferior thing who reeked of a poverty she loathed. I had volunteered to impersonate Sumo Shue, but it was only for the money. I was nothing but a gold digger. In her eyes, only an heiress like Sumo Shue was worthy of her son. Even though Sumo Shue had been disgusted by Zhou Liangchen after his car accident, that was just a young girl's petty tantrum. A simple, straightforward personality was far better than my calculating nature and greed. After dinner, I brought a tray of food upstairs. Zhou Liangchen insisted that I be the one to serve him his meals, he wouldn't let anyone else. He liked to chat with me as he ate, to let his hand wander over my thigh, to make me blush and my heart race. Then he would tease me, "Honey, your heart's beating so fast." He was so infuriating. After he finished, he'd insist that I read important company documents to him. I told him to have his assistant do it, but he refused. "Your voice is the loveliest, honey. I love listening to you read." Hearing those words always sent a pang of bitterness through my heart, because this wasn't my real voice. What he heard was my imitation of Sumo Shue's. It was my last night. Tomorrow, I had to leave as agreed. Sumo Shue would return to take my place. Zhou Liangchen would be recovered by then, and they would once again be the perfect couple in everyone's eyes, a match made in heaven. Not like me, who had spent the last 2 years living in the shadows, strictly following Mrs. He's orders to never be seen by anyone. As usual, after dinner, I was nestled in Zhou Liangchen's arms, watching TV while he toyed with my fingers. On the screen, the main characters were sobbing as they parted ways, and my own heart clenched. I squeezed his hand, lacing our fingers together. "Honey, what's wrong?" he asked, confused. I tilted my head up and kissed him. He wrapped his arms around me, deepening the kiss as he gently lowered us onto the bed. "Honey, you're so passionate tonight." I didn't dare answer, afraid he'd hear the catch in my voice. I just pulled him closer. "Goodbye, Zhou Liangchen." Early the next morning, I came downstairs with my luggage packed. The maid stood quietly to one side. Hyunjuan looked on with displeasure, her eyes full of contempt. "You didn't take anything you shouldn't have, did you?" My face was expressionless as I handed my luggage to the maid. She took it and began to open it for inspection. "There's nothing, madam." Hyunjuan nodded and took a card out of her purse. "Here. This is the amount we agreed on. The pin is your birthday. I expect you to uphold the contract. Don't worry. I'll leave the country and this matter will stay buried." "Good. You can go now." With an impassive face, I picked up my luggage and left the villa I had lived in for 2 years. From behind me, Hyunjuan's voice came. "Clean up thoroughly in a bit. Remember to disinfect. Miss Su is coming over." "Yes, madam." I dragged my heavy luggage back to my rental apartment. Staring at the small, run-down place, I suddenly wanted to cry. As small as this little room was, it was all mine. In that huge mansion, I never had an inch of space to call my own. Zhou Liangchen and I were destined to live in 2 separate worlds. I stayed in the rental for a week, waiting for my mom to get through her surgery so we could leave the country together. Here, I no longer had to walk on eggshells around people, wear a mask when I went out, or imitate someone else's voice when I spoke. Everyone knew who I was. I was Yianin. My mom seemed to know everything. She didn't ask a single question, just quietly accepted my plan for us to go abroad. Her health was very poor, and moving would mean substantial medical bills. But thankfully, the Zhou family had given me plenty of money. Besides, when I was pretending to be Sumo Shue, I had taken baking classes just because Zhou Liangchen liked sweets. With a skill like that, I knew I wouldn't starve in a foreign country. After moving abroad, I worked as a baker in a restaurant, earning just enough to support my mom and me. I saw Zhou Liangchen and Sumo Shue in the entertainment news. He had regained his sight, and she had come back. In their photo from a charity gala, the handsome man and beautiful woman were a picture-perfect couple. Online commenters said they were childhood sweethearts, a match made in heaven. I thought so too, they were a perfect match. It was just like at our high school graduation ceremony many years ago. They stood on stage hosting in formal attire, while I, in my plain clothes, watched from the audience with envy. I am the daughter of an employee of the Su family, 1 year younger than Sumo Shue. To ensure Sumo Shue received better care, the Su family arranged for me to attend her school, primarily to assist her with daily tasks, though I was a grade below her. The Zhou and Su families have been close for many years, and Zhou Liangchen and Su Mashiwei grew up as childhood friends. They attended the same school and even the same class throughout their studies. The intentions of both families were clear. Rumors of their close relationship also circulated throughout the school. Some said they saw them dancing together at a ball, others said they saw them studying together in the library, and there were even whispers of them traveling abroad together. Their every move was a hot topic of gossip at school. I, however, was different. I was just an inconspicuous student. During my school years, I had thick bangs and wore black-rimmed glasses. In the eyes of others, I was merely an insignificant helper to Su Mashiwei. My interest in Zhou Liangchen began with a small incident. Most students at their school came from affluent backgrounds, so many held a certain prejudice against students like me from ordinary families. One day, I was once again having some trouble, and 2 classmates asked me to retrieve their stray ball. Zhou Liangchen saw this, admonished the 2 classmates, and told me I could just leave. He was a member of the student council and often helped prevent inappropriate behavior on campus. He naturally became one of the most popular boys at school and left an impression in my heart. Later, I was admitted to a good university. I diligently studied makeup and fashion, gradually transforming into a charming girl in everyone's eyes. I thought life was finally going to take a turn for the better. However, Zhou Liangchen and Su Mashiwei were involved in a car accident during their university graduation trip. Zhou Liangchen suffered leg injuries and his eyesight was affected. Su Mashiwei, however, was well protected and only sustained minor injuries. But when she saw Zhou Liangchen's condition, she became very emotional. She returned to the Su family deeply distressed, pleading with Mr. and Mrs. Su to cancel the engagement, stating that she could not accept such a life partner. Mr. and Mrs. Su were in a difficult position but ultimately doted on their daughter and arranged for her to study abroad. However, Zhou Liangchen was deeply devoted to her. He refused to eat or drink if she didn't visit for a few days. The 2 families argued intensely, eventually coming up with a substitute solution. Coincidentally, my mother was diagnosed with cancer and needed surgery, but I couldn't raise the necessary medical funds. So, I voluntarily approached Mrs. Su and offered to play the role of Su Mashiwei. Thus, for 2 years, I became the Su Mashiwei in Zhou Liangchen's eyes. My thoughts drifted back to the present, and I forced myself to forget Zhou Liangchen and Su Mashiwei. To focus on my own life. But life abroad wasn't easy. I was in a new country, didn't know anyone, and my English wasn't very fluent. On top of that, I had to care for my mother, who was still recovering. Thankfully, I was living in Chinatown, where I had a group of kind-hearted neighbors and friends. Seeing how much I was struggling, they were always willing to lend a hand. Most of the money from the Zhou family had been spent on my mom's medical bills. I found a job as a baker at a local restaurant. I began to put down roots in this strange country, this unfamiliar city, and a sense of security started to grow. I thought Zhou Liangchen and I would never meet again. But to my utter surprise, we met again just 1 year later. That day, I was working as usual when the manager came to find me, saying a customer had some questions about the bread I'd made. I went out to the dining room and saw him, Zhou Liangchen, his sight restored. He was dressed in a bespoke suit that fit his tall, slender frame perfectly. A faint smile played on his lips, his usual, refined air. He looked at me calmly, as if I were a complete stranger. Which made sense. To him, that's all I was now, a stranger. Out of professionalism, I spoke first. "Sir, is there a problem with the bread I made?" His voice was as gentle as I remembered. "No, the bread is delicious. But I wanted to ask, where did you learn your craft? It tastes exactly the same as my wife's." My heart clenched. Had he figured something out? "You're too kind, sir. I just learned from a local class. I'm sure I'm no match for your wife." Zhou Liangchen stared right at me. But I just kept my head down, feigning a subservient demeanor. "Perhaps I have the wrong person," he said, a trace of sadness in his voice, but I didn't dare let my mind wander. I was panicking, desperate to leave. But the manager was still waiting on him with a smile, so I couldn't just walk away. Right in front of me, Zhou Liangchen asked the manager, "Manager, when did Miss Shi start working here?" The manager answered truthfully, "Ye started with us a year ago." Zhou Liangchen smiled, but my heart sank. He handed the manager a thick wad of cash as a tip, saying he had a few more questions for me. Beaming, the manager pocketed the money and told me to take good care of our guest. After the manager left, Zhou Liangchen's voice turned sorrowful. "Miss Yi, you look so much like someone I used to know. But I lost her." "Mr. Zhou, you must be mistaken. Miss Yi, tell me, do you think she'll ever come back to me?" My eyes stung. "Mr. Zhou, not everyone is meant to be together." He gave a bitter laugh. "Is that so? But I want to be with her." I said nothing. He had probably grown dependent on the Sumo Shue of those 2 years, but was that really love? He loved the real Sumo Shue, he was merely dependent on her stand-in. I cursed myself inwardly, telling myself to stay clear-headed. Zhou Liangchen smiled faintly and held out a stack of bills to me. I looked at the money, not wanting to take it, but I held out my hands, hoping it would make him leave. "Thank you." But he didn't let go. I looked at him in confusion. Suddenly, his hand reached over and grasped my fingers. I was startled and tried to pull back, but he only squeezed tighter, his long fingers beginning to caress my hand. My face flushed. It was the same thing he used to do when he was blind. He let out a laugh, the corners of his lips curving up, his gaze burning as he looked at me. "Wife, it really is you." My cheeks burned even hotter. Flustered, I couldn't meet his eyes as I wrenched my hand free. "Mr. Zhou, you're mistaken." "Oh? Am I? Then why won't you look at me?" His voice was laced with amusement. I was completely at a loss, with no idea what to do. Luckily, a new customer ordered some bread, and the kitchen staff hurried over to get me. I used it as an excuse to flee, not daring to spare him a single glance. For the rest of my shift, my mind was in turmoil. I had no idea what was happening. During a lull, I snuck a look at my phone and searched the gossip columns. To my surprise, I found that Zhou Liangchen and Sumo Shue were still not engaged. I remembered He Anjuan telling me that as soon as he regained his sight, he would immediately marry Sumo Shue. But this was different from what she'd said. And now he had come looking for me. After work, I left the restaurant, only to see Zhou Liangchen standing by the door, waiting. I was so shocked I froze on the spot. He gave a gentle smile. "It's getting late. I'll take you home." "No, thanks. I don't even know you," I said, shaking my head quickly, my heart pounding. Zhou Liangchen's smile was soft, just like it was back in our school days. "It's okay if you don't know me. I know you. And I like you. That's all that matters." My face grew hot again. I never imagined he would say something like that. "What are you talking about? Don't you have a fiancé?" He raised an eyebrow. "When did I ever say I had a fiancé? And how would you know about that?" I froze, realizing my slip-up. But the thought that he did have a fiancé and was still coming on to me made my chest tighten uncomfortably. "So you do have a fiancé? And you're still coming after me?" Zhou Liangchen cupped my face with his hands, forcing me to meet his gaze. "Yianin, I like you. My engagement to Sumo Shue was called off a long time ago. It was just a verbal agreement between our families, we never even had an engagement party. I only have one fiancé now, and it's you." Looking into his sincere, gentle eyes, I suddenly wanted to cry. My eyes began to well up. He saw, and he gently wiped the tears from my eyes. But I was still overwhelmed with sadness. I thought of Mrs. He's disdain for me, of our previous agreement, of my sick mother. Zhou Liangchen and I were destined to be from 2 different worlds. He was just, not thinking clearly right now. I pushed him away and started walking home in silence. Zhou Liangchen didn't say a word, just followed quietly behind me. I walked into a supermarket, deciding to buy some groceries. He eagerly grabbed a cart and started pushing it. I tried to take it from him, but it was no use, so I finally just let him. I picked out some vegetables. He didn't know what most of them were, but he would still pick up ones that looked good and ask me, "How about this one? Is this radish okay?" If I nodded, he'd put it in the cart. If I shook my head, he'd just smile and pick out something else. I thought he would be annoyed, that he'd find it beneath him, but he wasn't. The smile on his face was as gentle as ever. Just like it was on the day I first fell for him. He insisted on paying, then carried the bags and followed me out of the supermarket. Zhou Liangchen, what is it you want? I couldn't take it anymore, the feelings all bottled up inside me. Sadness filled his eyes. I just missed you. He still followed me home. The moment I opened the door, he impatiently pinned me against the wall. Don't. I tried to say my mom was home. But I couldn't get the words out. He sealed my lips with his, like a starving wolf, leaving me completely unable to speak. The sound of our kissing echoed in the silent living room. His hand started to wander, and my face flushed bright red. And then, you're home. My mom walked into the living room and saw us, her jaw dropping in shock. Zhou Liangchen finally let me go and straightened his clothes. He smiled at my mom. Hello, ma'am. My mom knew Zhou Liangchen. She looked at me, surprised. But I was so embarrassed I hid behind him, smoothing out my own clothes, completely unable to meet her gaze. Zhou Liangchen eventually left for his hotel. My mom looked at me, her eyes filled with pity. And then, I know you like him. I'll support whatever you decide. All that matters is that you're happy. I burst into tears and sobbed in her arms. The next day, I quit my job at the restaurant. I didn't want to see Zhou Liangchen, and I knew with his temperament, he'd probably look for me there again. On the third day, I was idle at home, chatting with a neighbor, when Zhou Liangchen showed up. The neighbor was about my age and had handsome, clean-cut features. We were happily talking about cooking, but in Zhou Liangchen's eyes, it was as if I were cheating on him. His gaze toward my neighbor was full of hostility. The neighbor seemed to sense something, said a quick goodbye to me, and hurried off. Who was that? He asked with a smile, but I could feel the anger simmering in his tone. Just a neighbor. He has a girlfriend. He let out a laugh and followed me inside. Is your mom not here? She went to the hospital for a checkup. I regretted the words as soon as they left my mouth. The moment I said it, his eyes filled with a heat that made me deeply uncomfortable. Sure enough, he pulled me into his arms and led me toward the sofa. I slapped at his hands. But thankfully, he didn't do anything excessive. Instead, it was like before, he sat on the sofa, and I nestled into his arms. He rested his chin on my shoulder, his voice intimate and soft. Wife, I've missed you so much. I waited for you at the restaurant for so long yesterday. When you didn't show up, I had no choice but to come find you here. My nose stung with the urge to cry. Mr. Zhou, please don't come looking for me anymore. My contract with Mrs. He is over. He held me tighter. A contract? We can have a contract. I'll give you more money. A bitter feeling soured in my heart. Did he really think I was willing to be Sumoshiwa's stand-in just for the money? I don't want to. Why not? How much do you want? I'll give you anything. The bitterness in my heart deepened. Mr. Zhou, my mom's medical bills are almost paid off. I don't need to sell myself anymore. Zhou Liangchen held me in a vice-like grip. So you only took care of me for the money? Yes. And when we fulfilled our marital duties, that wasn't voluntary either? I didn't answer. The truth was, I had been willing. I liked him. I liked being with him. But he had only slept with me because he saw me as Sumoshiwe. Zhou Liangchen was silent for a long time. He seemed deeply hurt. I was afraid he'd get angry. Mr. Zhou, I'm sorry for deceiving you. If there's anything I can do to make it up to you, I'll do my best. Then marry me. Be with me. I'll cover all of your mother's expenses, and I'll treat you with all my heart, he said, his tone firm and decisive. But I hesitated. I thought I would refuse his offer. But I never expected disaster to strike so quickly. My mom's illness relapsed. I was scared to death when we rushed her to the hospital. Zhou Liangchen got the news and came to the hospital to be with me. The doctor said my mom needed to stay for observation and recovery before they could decide whether to operate. This would be another huge expense, and my bank account was already empty. Zhou Liangchen held me tight and asked me to reconsider his deal. If I married him, he would cover all of my mom's medical costs. He would place her in the best hospital with the best medical team. He would give me a lot of money. I struggled internally, weighing the pros and cons. In the end, I had no choice but to bow to reality. I followed Zhou Liangchen back home, and my mom was admitted to the best hospital in the country. Zhou Liangchen didn't move back into his old villa. Instead, he bought a luxury apartment with all the amenities. It was just the two of us living there. He worked during the day and came back to the apartment at night. My days were spent checking on my mom's condition and planning the wedding. At night, whenever we were alone, he'd pull me into bed the first chance he got. When he was blind, his desire wasn't this intense, and he was always gentle in bed. Now, it was like he was a different person. He wanted it almost every day, and he was rough and demanding. I'd be crying my eyes out, but he would just kiss my tears away and coax me to continue. Off the bed, though, he was still as gentle as ever, letting me have my way in everything. Every day, I was surrounded by a team of designers for hair and makeup trials, choosing a wedding dress, and picking out a venue. I was swamped. The strange thing was, I hadn't seen Hyunjuan since we got back. You'd think she'd make an appearance for something as big as her son's wedding. She's always looked down on me. Wasn't this the perfect chance for her to show up and throw a few snide remarks my way? To tell me I'm a toad trying to eat a swan? That day, Zhou Liangchen had just gotten home and showered when he started pulling me toward the bed again. Hey, wait a second, I have something serious to talk about, I said, blushing as I quickly stopped him. What is it? He asked, his voice husky. I quickly showed him the design mock-ups for the wedding venue. I was worried my taste was different from his and that the guests would laugh at me for choosing something tacky. He had a better eye for these things. Zhou Liangchen gave it a cursory glance. It's fine. Whatever you want. You didn't even look through them. What if people make fun of the wedding? You can't blame me then, I said, my tone more complaining than friendly. He smiled and kissed my forehead. It's our wedding. All that matters is that you like it. Who cares what they think? But what if they do laugh? He patted my head as if to say I was being silly. Who would dare make fun of your husband? I gave him an exasperated shove. They wouldn't make fun of him, but they'd laugh at me behind my back. He gave me a helpless look. Don't worry, you have great taste. Honey, I'm hungry. Which hunger do you want me to take care of first? My face flushed, and I scrambled to my feet. I'll go make you dinner. I just boiled some noodles and fried an egg. It was a simple meal, but he ate with relish. My wife's such a good cook. I love it. After he finished, he said he was still hungry. He took over as chef and made a whole feast. I was stuffed to the point of tears, but his smile only deepened. I thought life would continue on so peacefully. But I never expected an uninvited guest. Sumoshua found my apartment and rang the doorbell. The moment I saw her, my heart filled with worry. I knew she wasn't here for a friendly visit. Standing before me, Sumoshua still had that same arrogant air about her. Yianin, long time no see. I never thought you'd end up as my replacement. Her voice dripped with scorn, but I didn't respond. What's the matter, Yianin? Cat got your tongue? Enjoying everything that should have been mine, don't you feel any shame? I looked into her disdainful eyes and finally spoke. Sumoshua, what do you want? So, Yianin, you've got a powerful backer now and think you can act all high and mighty with me? You used to call me Miss Su, and now you dare to use my full name. I scoffed. Sumoshua, it's the 21st century. My mother isn't your family's maid anymore. And you expect me to call you Miss? Have you lost your mind? I was furious. Her words brought back a flood of bad memories. My mother worked for the Su family, and my father was their driver. I used to be a cheerful, outgoing little girl, but after my father passed away, my mother brought me to live with the Zus. At first, Mr. and Mrs. Su took pity on me. They saw I had a good disposition and were very kind, even giving me gifts. But when Sumoshua saw how nice her parents were to me, she grew jealous. She insisted I act like her servant, trailing her like a lackey. She even made me call her miss in front of our classmates at school, just to feed her vanity. It completely crushed my self-esteem, and I couldn't hold my head up at school. I became quiet and withdrawn, trying my best to be invisible. Now, I have nothing to do with the Zus, yet here she was again, trying to lord it over me. I'm not wrong, Yianin. A servant is always a servant. Trying to be the lady of the house just means you don't know your place. Sumoshiwa walked into the apartment and sat down on the sofa as if she owned the place. I stared at her, my expression cold. Aren't you leaving? I'll call security and tell them you're trespassing. She sneered. This is my child's father's house. How could that be trespassing? I froze. The father of her child? What are you talking about? She smiled, stroking her stomach. I'm pregnant. It's Liangchen's. So tell me, doesn't that make me the mistress of this apartment? I looked down and chuckled. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I didn't believe her. I knew what kind of person Zhou Liangchen was. He wasn't the type to get someone else pregnant and then fly halfway across the world to find me. You should go. It would be ugly if I had you thrown out. Sumoshiwa's face was a mask of disbelief. Yianin, have you thrown away all your morals for money? Have you no shame? That's right. I love money, and Zhou Liangchen gives it to me. Even if you were pregnant with his child, I'd still stay with him. Is there a problem with that? I paused. Are you satisfied with my answer? Now what? Are you going to leave, or do I have to call security? I was deliberately trying to provoke her, and it worked. Her eyes went wide with fury, and she finally stomped out in her high heels. After she left, I couldn't help but feel conflicted. Even though I'd acted completely confident in Zhou Liangchen in front of her, I was still worried. I had to ask him about it and get a straight answer. If I wasn't satisfied with his answer, I would probably just pack my bags and leave. That evening, Zhou Liangchen came home and saw I wasn't in a good mood. He smiled and asked, "Honey, what's wrong? Who upset you?" I told him what had happened during the day. "Zhou Liangchen, what exactly is going on between you and Sumoshiwa?" He looked completely bewildered. I have no idea what she's talking about with this baby. I never even touched her. There's nothing between us. I was silent. He got anxious. You, of all people, should know who I'm giving all my inventory to every day. I only want to have a child with you. My face flushed, and I snapped, "Don't talk about that. After I went abroad, did anything really happen between you and Sumoshiwa?" Zhou Liangchen pulled me into his arms. "After you left, Sumoshiwa did come to me. But I knew right away it wasn't you. The way her hands felt, the tone of her voice, it was all different. She wasn't you. How could I ever let anything happen with her?" My eyes welled up with tears. "But the only reason you like me is because you saw me as her substitute, right?" "That's not true. I fell in love with you, the Yianin who took such careful care of me, the Yianin who would get shy and push me away whenever I tried to hold her. I love you. It's only ever been you." His voice was full of sincerity. "So Sumoshiwa's baby really isn't yours?" "Of course not. I only love you. I swear." I believed him. I wanted to believe him. "But I do hope we can have a child of our own soon." Just as I was feeling moved, Zhou Liangchen brought up his desire for a baby again. I playfully pushed at him, trying to get him to let go. But he only held me tighter, continuing his grand baby-making project. I couldn't fight him off, so in the end, I just had to let him have his way. The next day, Sumoshiwa came again. Unexpectedly, Hyunjuan, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, came with her. This time, Hyunjuan's gaze wasn't disdainful, but simply cold. They sat down on the sofa without a word to me. I calmly waited for them to start their provocation. Hyunjuan spoke, her expression displeased. "Yianin, I didn't expect you to come back." "Yes, it's been a long time, Auntie. I was neither servile nor overbearing, no longer the submissive girl I once was." Hyunjuan stared at me intently. "Yianin, I never realized you were so clever, wrapping my son around your little finger." Sumoshiwa fanned the flames. "Auntie, it was her. She's been bad-mouthing me to Liangchen, and now he won't even see me." With that, she began to cry pitifully. I ignored her and got straight to the point. "Auntie, we've left each other in peace for so long. Why the sudden visit?" I wasn't stupid. The only reason she hadn't come to bother me for all this time had to be Zhou Liangchen. Hyunjuan took out her phone and played a recording. "Yianin, have you no basic sense of decency or shame, all for money?" "That's right, I love money. Zhou Liangchen gives me money. Even if you're carrying his child, I'll still stay with him. It was from my previous conversation with Sumu Xue. She had recorded it, edited it down to just those 2 lines, and sent it to Yanjuan. When the recording finished, Yanjuan spoke. Yianan, since you love money so much, how much will it take for you to leave my son? Hearing that, I was genuinely tempted to take the money and leave. But then I thought of Zhou Liangchen, and I didn't want to go anymore. Maybe I'm just one of those women who says one thing and means another. I tell Zhou Liangchen I want to leave, but what I really want is for him to keep asking me to stay. Auntie, you must have sent this recording to Zhou Liangchen. His response is my answer. Yanjuan's expression changed. You really are something. If he'd wanted to leave you after hearing that recording, why would I even be here? I just smiled slightly and said nothing. Sumu Xue asked anxiously, Auntie, what about my baby with Liangchen? Yanjuan looked at me. Yianan, Akin's child must be brought into the family. The Zhous will not allow our bloodline to be raised elsewhere. Even if you and Akin get married, I will bring this child into the Zhou household. Sumu Xue's tone grew urgent. Auntie, then, what about what we agreed on? Don't worry, the Zhou family will honor our agreement and help the Zhous through their difficulties. Okay, thank you, Auntie. I silently watched them put on this show in front of me. I remembered how Yanjuan used to dote on Sumu Xue, treating her as her one and only daughter-in-law even after she'd abandoned her son. But now their dynamic had shifted. It was as if Sumu Xue was trying to curry favor with Yanjuan, while Yanjuan couldn't care less about her. From their conversation, it sounded like the Su family's business was in trouble. Suddenly, Yanjuan's phone rang. It was Zhou Liangchen. She answered it, then left with Sumu Xue, shooting me a hostile glare before she walked out. After they left, I silently packed my things from the master bedroom and moved into the guest room. I understood from their conversation that Zhou Liangchen was hiding things from me, a lot of things. He might love me, but he didn't trust me and wasn't willing to be honest. I wanted to leave, but the contract was still in effect, and he was still paying for my mother's medical bills. Zhou Liangchen came home. He saw my emotionless face and noticed my things were gone from the master bedroom. He looked at me, confused. Honey, what's wrong? Did my mom and the others say something to you? I'm staying in the guest room from now on. Don't come looking for me at night. Also, I'm going to start looking for a job tomorrow. With that, I went into the guest room and locked the door from the inside. He called for me from the hallway, but I completely ignored him. When I opened the door the next morning, he was still there, right outside the guest room, even though he should have been at the office. His eyes were bloodshot, as if he hadn't slept all night. The moment he saw me, he pulled me into his arms. Honey, please don't leave. I was wrong. I'll listen to you from now on, okay? Then he tried to find my lips, but I dodged him. Zhou Liangchen, don't do this every time there's a problem. You're not being honest with me at all. He froze. What's wrong? What is it? I was filled with resentment, and my eyes welled with tears. Sumu Xue and your mom, how many things have you been hiding from me? You don't tell me anything, you just handle it all by yourself. Do you have any idea how much it hurt to hear Sumu Xue say she was pregnant with your child? He held me, gently patting my back. I went on, sobbing. I know what kind of person you are, so I trust you. But when you don't tell me anything, I can't help but feel hurt and start to doubt things. I cried my heart out, then bit his shoulder hard. He admitted he was wrong and told me everything. After he regained his sight, he realized Sumu Xue wasn't me. He investigated everything and called off the engagement with the Su family. Sumu Xue refused to accept it and got Yanjuan, who doted on her, to pressure him. But Zhou Liangchen revealed how Sumu Xue secretly looked down on Yanjuan and constantly badmouthed her behind her back. Sumu Xue was arrogant and had no respect for Yanjuan. After Zhou Liangchen stirred things up, their relationship fell apart, and the engagement was successfully broken. With no one standing in his way, he was free to come abroad and find me. So what was that about the Su family being in trouble? The Su family's business ran into problems and is struggling to stay afloat. That's why Sumu Xue went to my mother, hoping to use a marriage alliance to get the Zhou family's help. And the baby? I just found out about that. Su Muxiue has had several boyfriends recently. The baby is probably one of her exes, definitely not your husband's. I'll explain it to my mom. And then, I'm sorry. I thought I could handle everything on my own, so that all you had to do was relax and be comfortable every day. I was wrong. From now on, I'll tell you everything. I'll consider your feelings. Let's not fight anymore, okay? I nodded. Okay. Zhou Liangchen, I know. I know the kind of person you are. I know you were trying to do what was best for me. I've read all your essays from your school days, I've seen how you talk with your friends, I've watched your speech competitions. I know your soul, your character, your way of thinking. But as your partner, I need you to open up your heart to me willingly, not make me guess based on my own observations and understanding of you. The latter feels like my one-sided crush, the former is what it means for us to be in love. It's the only way a person as insecure as me can truly feel that we are. Later, after my mom recovered and was discharged from the hospital, we held a grand wedding. Hyunjuan came too. Maybe it was thanks to Zhou Liangchen's efforts, but she was polite enough to me, and I didn't want to dwell on the past. I opened a bakery and managed it myself. Zhou Liangchen worked day and night, and we had a child of our own. Zhou Liangchen, why did you want a child so badly? Because I used to think you didn't love me. I thought if we had a child, you wouldn't leave me. So you think I love you now? Your mom told me all about the crush you had on me back in school. I closed my eyes and played dead. He wrapped his arms around me. Yi Anan, we may not be childhood sweethearts, but we'll spend the rest of our lives together. We might not have had the first 20 years, but we have every day from now on.